Welcome back. In this segment, we're going to hang an exterior door. We're going to take this door right here and we're going to put it in this opening. The steps we're going to do before we do it are we're going to take these handles off. We're going to put the door in this opening and see how it fits, not only this way, but this way. It's a full wrap door, so we don't have the luxury of raising up one side or the other to make sure that the door fits like an interior door. This is an exterior door, so you have to put it in square. So the first step would be putting caulking along the bottom here. So when we put the door in, it's sealed at the bottom, so no water gets in. Second step, we'll put in shims on one side of the door, which will be the hinge side of the door, and make sure those shims are nice and plumb. Then what we'll do is screw the door into those shims, and then we'll adjust the other side, make sure that the opening between the frame and the door is really nice, okay? And that's what you do secondarily. Once we get that all done, we should be able to open and close the door nicely. So let's get to it. Right now I'm going to take the screws out of these handles. These handles just make the door easy to carry. And since we already have it where we want it to be, we don't need these handles anymore. Plus, they get in the way when you try to hang the door. I want to talk to you a little bit about interior and exterior doors. This being an exterior door, like I spoke before, is a full wrap door. In other words, the jambs on the side are tied to the sill or the threshold at the bottom, okay? Having said that, we can't move this door around so much. We can't adjust it very well because as soon as we start trying to adjust it, these reveals are going to change, and we can't have that because they look good right now. So basically, as the door sits, we're going to have to make it fit this opening by itself. We have to respect these gaps that we have and don't try to square this door up like, this, and now we have a sill that's off the floor. So what we really have to do is we have to respect the gaps. We have enough room to put this door in, but we have to respect these openings. And so we're going to shim to these openings all around the door, screw into those shims through the jambs, and this door will now be set for this opening. If it was an interior door, we wouldn't have a sill at the bottom or a threshold. And so these jambs on the sides would be floating. Like they wouldn't float right here because of the hinges, but across here and down here would all be loose. And so we could lift this up if we needed to have a reveal up here, or we could drop it down if we needed to have less of a reveal. So that's the difference between an interior door and an exterior door. As this is an exterior door, we're just going to put it in the hole as it sits because we like those reveals that we have right there, and we're going to work with shims to make sure that we keep these reveals staying the same. We've put the door in and we've made sure that we have the reveals, and we made sure that we have the distance from the door over to the sheetrock. We've looked at it this way, that way, and the other way. So we're pretty set. We know what we're going to do, but before we put the door in, we obviously have to caulk at the base of the door so we don't get any wind or anything coming through or water. So I always go up a little bit on the sides, and I'm not shy about how much caulking I use. And what I tend to do is I like to use silicone because it lasts long and it holds well. And what we'll do when we're all done is we'll foam around the door, and that'll make this connection at the sill, along with the jambs, all one connection, and it'll keep the rain and the wind and all that out. All right, I'm just going to walk the door over to the opening. So I don't fall out of the building, I'll just the first thing I want to do is I want to line this jamb of the door up with the stud. So it is flush up here and flush down here. That way I can come over to the other side of the doors as I'm holding it and make sure that it lines up with the other jamb as well. And so what I'm finding is that the bottom of this wall is out just a little bit this way towards me. And so it's not so much that I have to worry so much about it, but I'll keep it in mind when I'm hanging the door. I may just kick the bottom of this hinge side in a little bit to allow for that little bit of adjustment I need on the other side. I want to talk to you about the jamb now. This jamb is 4.5 inches wide. 4.5 inches, and the wall is only 3.5 inches. Well, why do they have that? Because you have siding on the outside and you have sheetrock on the inside. Do this because you have a 1/2 inch of sheetrock on the inside, and you may have up to 3/4 of an inch of siding on the outside. We want to worry about the inside first, and we can always add to the jamb on the outside if we need to when we put our trim on the outside. So what we'll be doing is we'll be holding this door with a 1/2 inch reveal on the inside, knowing that that will line up with the sheetrock, and when we put our casing on around the door, it'll be easy to do. So that's what we'll have to do. We have to hold the door out a 1/2 inch from the wall before we set it into the wall. What we're going to do now is we have the door a 1/2 inch in for our sheetrock. So in this case, we're going to put a screw right from the jamb right into the stud. Normally, you'd have more room up at the top. You'd have a uniform space along one side of the jamb here, but we don't have that. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with that, and then we're going to start working our shims along this stud at specific points, basically at the hinges, and we'll be screwing our screws in and fixing this side of the door first. Then we'll be able to open up the door, and then we can work on the other side. I've just put some shims down at the base of the door because I know that's where the base of the door is going to stay. So I just don't want the door, this jamb, to move around. I just put just 2 shims down there just to keep this jamb right where it was from the beginning. I did that because I know it's on this side, it's up against this stud, and up here I have a big opening, and I know that this right here is up against the stud. So as long as I keep that out as far as I have kept it, and I put a screw in here, then we'll be okay with our sill and our reveals. Our next step is to take off this piece of plastic. It just is holding the door to the jamb, and they use that for transportation. It has a screw right here, and all I'm going to do is just back that screw out. Now that I've got the door open, I'm going to use some shims to move this door up until I have my reveal for the sheetrock between the jamb and the stud, basically the 1/2 inch that I talked about earlier. I'm going to use a 2x4 because it's the most easy fix right now, and it gives me just a little less than what I need. I have to put a few more shims in here just to make sure that the door is high enough. Get my reveal. That looks pretty good. Like this side, I need a little bit more. And now I have a little too much, so I'll just keep working on it until I get it where I want it. All right, that looks good. Now I'm going to get my drill and my screws, and we're going to screw this door in. Now I'm going to put the screw in the top where we said we're going to put it in because it's up against the stud. So I'll do that first. Then I'll start working my shims, and we'll screw into those, and we'll have one side done. Now we have the first screw in, and it's stable. So what I'm going to do is put my shims in for this hinge. Well, it's a little rough to get it in, so I'll slide in the thin part first, and then I'll work in this guy. All right. These hinges have left this screw out, so I'll just slide in my shims right in that area so I don't hit the little tail ends of the screws from the hinges. And I'll just use that screw opening to hold the door in. All right, we put our second set of shims in. Now we're going to go for our third, and we're going to follow the same practice. We're going to go right where this screw is missing, and we're going to put our shims in there. And we just respect the opening. Whatever opening this is, we use it. And I just get these shims snug. I don't try to stuff them in really hard because that'll bow this jamb. I just put them in nice and snug. Now we should be able to take the shims and this 2x4 out from under the door, and this door should swing nice and easy. Okay, so now we just hold this tight to this jamb, and I'll do that from the inside so I can keep an eye on that reveal. And I'll fill this side up with shims just like we did on the other side. And I might put 4 sets on this side. I like to put one in between the two handles here. One's a deadbolt usually, and one's a hand set. And so I put one right here so it's nice and solid, so if anybody ever tries to get into your house, it's a little bit more work. You can see that this gap, this reveal, is much wider than up here. So what I do is I just push one shim in and pull the other one towards me until I have this reveal. And so what I'll do is I'll do it so it's a little bit smaller, because I know my screw, just a little bit, I know my screw will suck it in just a little bit. So since this one's ready to roll, I'm going to stick this one in dead center. Now we see that this reveal here is the same as this reveal here. So I'll put another shim here, and I'll put another shim here, and you should be good to go. Sometimes shims will not be enough if it's just one set of shims. In other words, if this shim and this shim are right to here and that's not enough space. So what you can do is you can double up the thickness of the shims, and you can use them just like single shims, but now they're double shims, and they'll give you a little bit more thickness when you're working with a wide opening. Okay, you see that I had to use double shims here because this is a rather wide opening, and it's not a big deal. You just double up your shims, two thin side on this side, two thick side on this side, and you just work them just like regular shims, and you can handle larger opening. All right, and the last area we're going to do is right here. I'm going to check my reveal real quick. Looks good. That reveal looks nice. That's how you hang an exterior door. All we have to do now is just clip off these shims, and you can do that with a knife, or you can use a Sawzall if you like. But they generally come off pretty quickly, and you do it on both sides, and then you're ready to hang your sheetrock on the inside.
Home Improvement Camp. Have at it.